TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001@twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001@twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. The mission of Heritage Christian University is simple. They aim to advance the churches of Christ by equipping servants through undergraduate and graduate programs. Heritage Christian University produces effective communicators of the gospel, focusing on evangelism and a commitment to Scripture. Heritage Christian University is accredited by the Association for Biblical Higher Education and offers the following degrees: Associate of Arts in Biblical Studies, Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies, Master of Arts, Master of Ministry, and Master of Divinity. Since 1968, Heritage Christian University, formerly International Bible College, has offered affordable degrees in biblical studies, allowing graduates to thrive in their ministries without the burden of loan debt after graduation. For more information about Heritage Christian University, visit www.hcu.edu. That's 3 W's and a dot, hcu.edu. Heritage Christian University is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated in Moss, Tennessee is a construction company that specializes in erosion control, seeding and soil, hydroseeding, hydromulch, minor excavation, and silt fence. They also provide traffic control and construction signs. Their business is keeping people safe, but their passion, their mission, is they wish that all men could be saved. TKM has adopted the nickname the King's Men because as they serve you, they also serve the King. If they could provide any of their services for you, please contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. Or you can contact them on the net at tkminc2001@twlakes.net. That is tkminc2001@twlakes.net. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. A lot of volleyball after midnight. Now, when I say I've played volleyball, I'm using the term very, very loosely. My daughter played college volleyball. My wife coached club volleyball and middle school volleyball. And I've seen good volleyball. I've seen good technical volleyball, but I was playing SR volleyball. Now, SR is what the SWAT team was called before their name was officially changed to SWAT. They used to be called the Special Response Team, and we would train on certain nights of the week from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. That was called the power shift. That's the shift that they worked when they were a full-time team. And so after training, we would often go back to the field office and we would run. We might run down the old airport, and then down beside Airport Road, we might run the golf cart tracks on the old golf course there, the municipal golf course that was on Airport Road. And then we would go back behind the training trailer, and there was a sand volleyball court. Now, it wasn't a very good sand volleyball court. It was some sand poured into the grass and a net set up under one street lamp. And we would play volleyball way after me. I played volleyball when it was searing hot, and I played volleyball when it was freezing cold and the ball was wet and it felt like a volley brick. And oftentimes, because there's no clear lines, there was some controversy that would break out. Now, you've got to understand that controversy could break out on a volleyball game over nearly anything. the net was a mild suggestion. I think in my career, I built 3 different volleyball nets for these guys, and I had a special order of volleyball net with a steel cable at the top, because if you didn't put that thing up with a steel cable, it wasn't going to last one night. Those big guys would crash that net. It was a mild suggestion. I remember one night we were playing, and Dr. Huff, the first doctor that ever volunteered with our team, he was on the front row, and my good friend Jim Goins went up and grabbed the net, pulled it down, jumped up and spiked the ball, and it bounced right off Doc's head. And Kerry Robinson, in his best Captain Kirk imitation, said, "Dang it, Jim, he's a doctor, not a volleyball player." Now, we often had controversy over whether the ball was in or whether the ball was out. We didn't worry about anything like a lift or a double. Those rules just didn't matter. And as the chaplain of the team, I often got asked to resolve these disputes. Lonnie, was it in or Lonnie, was it out? Because they trusted me to be honest. And I held that distinct privilege of being the solver of controversy until the flag football game, when I called Bob DeNoon's greatest single-handed touchdown back. Now, in all fairness, Bob and I had agreed that the boundaries would be the ditch on both sides. This was at the old Johnson High School. And, Bob ran away with the ball, but you can only see it from his shoulders to his head. So he was clearly running in the ditch. And when they asked me, I said, well, I think he was out of bounds. Bob's never forgiven me. And he says that I stole the greatest SWAT team flag football touchdown from him on a controversial, dishonest call. Well, we often had these controversies over volleyball too. And this is the days before Mike Weeks. Mike was a Vietnam-era Green Beret, and one night we were fussing so bad about the volleyball lines that Mike brought some det cord, a fast-burning fuse, out of the trunk of that old Bronco that he drove, and he marked the court off with 4 stakes and this det cord. He looked at me underneath that flop hat that he wore with a cigarette in his mouth, and he said, "You might want to duck, preacher." And I laid down behind a dog barricade, and he blew this thing up and marked the volleyball court off with this beautiful little ditch. Well, this is before the days of the ditch. And so we were just playing with roughly defined lines, and Jim Goins and Mickey Allen kind of got into it. And they were disputing whether the ball was in or whether the ball was out. And earlier in the night, there had been a dispute, and Jim had won the argument and had been granted the idea that his opinion was right. Well, now it was Mickey's turn to get some payback, and so he was fighting or fussing about the ball being in or the ball being out. And Jim basically, intimated that he might be a cheater. And Mickey goes, "Well, you're calling me a cheater?" And Jim goes, "Yeah, I'm calling you a cheater." And in an attempt to quote, and the quote is from Jesus in John chapter 8, and the quote is, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone." And so Mickey's trying to say that. He's trying to say, you're calling me a cheater, but you're actually a cheater yourself. And so he's trying to quote that. And he's trying to quote it, obviously, in King James English. And so he looks at Jim standing there in the dark, and he goes, "He who casteth the first stone," and Jim immediately interrupted him and said, "Usually wins the fight. Book of David, I heard Lonnie preach on it." He who cast the first stone usually wins the fight. Although that's not actually said in the Bible, it probably applies to the story of David and Goliath. That first stone. It was explained to me one time by Tiger McGee in a 45 class that I took, that it's not the first shot that wins a gunfight, it's the first hit. Tim Larkin, in his target-focused training on self-defense, and I'm not promoting Tim Larkin's material. Tim Larkin is a guy who sells stuff. But one of the things that he says is, whoever wins the fight is the first person to cause injury. You think about initiative in a fight. I just recently heard the term battle rhythm. In football, you talk about momentum, or in athletics, you talk about mojo. And really, whoever controls the pace controls the encounter. And so the first person to score a hit, the first person to throw a punch, the first person to land a punch, the first person to do injury, initiate, the first person. Whoever dictates the pace dictates the encounter. A lot of times you do something on a ropes course, or you take a bunch of kids anywhere, and what's the argument? I want to be first. I want to be first. Let me go first. Let me be first. I remember hearing a sermon that Jim Woodruff did, and Jim Woodruff basically took the Beatitudes and he turned them into relationship languages. And in the Beatitude that says, blessed are the peacemakers, and it's blessed. It's not blessed. We read that because I guess it sounds like high church or something like that. It's not blessed, it's blessed. Blessed are the peacemakers. He translated as, I want to be the first to do something positive. And not only is he who casts the first stone the guy who wins the fight, but oftentimes the person who initiates good controls the dynamic of the encounter. You see, when I listened to a series of lessons on marriages by a guy named Matt Evans out of Dalton, Georgia, he basically said if you take the descriptions of love in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, they basically could be, those 15 descriptions of love could basically be fit into one of three buckets. And it's endurance, humility, and initiating good. He who casts the first stone wins the fight. Well, initiating good, that idea, or having the attitude of being the initiator of good, the person who changes the pace, that action of initiating good would change the momentum of any encounter and change the momentum of any relationship. Be the first to initiate an apology. Be the first to initiate forgiveness. Be the first to initiate compromise. Be the first to introduce compassion into the equation. Be the first to offer up a solution. Be the first to attempt reconciliation. Be the first who offers a bid for connection. We often are waiting on the other person to say something or do something, and it's almost like the Abilene paradox. We're waiting for the other person to say it, and instead of us just being the person who initiates it and saying it, these things go unresolved. They build up and they pile up and they become a backlog of unfinished business. He who casts the first stone usually wins the fight. Well, you know what? The person who does the first thing positive, the person who is the first to be forgiven, the person who is first to be reconciled, the person who feels like they were the first person to be valued or thanked or praised or invited or included. Just think about the tremendous change that would happen in the dynamics of our encounters, whether they're controversial, whether they're conflicting, whether they're adversarial, or whether they're just day-to-day relationships with our parents and our children and our loved ones, if we decided to let them experience being first. And we were the person who said, let me be the first to do something positive. I think it would be very surprising how many fights could be won, in quotations, by just simply putting first things first. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use two large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to 3Ws and a dot, worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure.